So
Yes. It's not that grieving isn't a real thing and doesn't deserve its own time and space. It does. But where does it come from? Where does the grieving come from? Where is the thought form that makes you think if your puppy died? All right,
I
Tavares,
got
here
it.
you am. if your Tavares, if your puppy died, how long do you stay upset about it?
Probably a few moments. I might not even be upset. We'll
And
see.
and
But
yes,
what helps me is understanding that my puppy's still here. I can
yes.
still connect with my puppy. As you say, the love isn't lost.
Changes in the gut microbiome can have serious consequences on our mental health. These microorganisms are responsible for more than just digestion. They produce neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, and these influence how we feel emotionally. So when this balance is disrupted, it leads to inflammation, which can affect our brains. A growing body of research, including a 2024 study published in Nature Communications, shows a direct link between gut dysbiosis, an imbalance in the gut microbiota, and mental disorders such as depression and anxiety. I've personally seen this in my everyday dealing with clients. A disrupted gut creates a cascade of chemical changes that influence mood, cognition, and behavior. The gut-brain connection is so profound that doctors are starting to treat mental health disorders by focusing on the gut.
Welcome to Call for the Truth. I am LaOta of the Sun, and this is Tavares of the Sun, and we welcome you to our podcast today. We'll be discussing depression. But before we do, Tavares, will you bring us into the truth?
Yes, we encourage you all to join us in the call for the truth, anchoring in the frequency. Shall we call forth the frequency of truth? Shall we call to see the truth in all that we see? Shall we call to hear the truth in all that we hear? Shall we call to speak the truth, calling forth the courage to speak the truth? Shall we call forth nothing less than the truth to come forward into our experience? And we are here in the truth, and for those who are following us or watching, tuning in, if you're not subscribed, hit that like, subscribe, that bell notification so you can stay tuned, as well as with our live streams. So we're here in the truth. We're talking about depression, and we kick things off. We laughing, we're happy, because we're clowning before we hit that record button. But depression, right? I want to kick things off by sharing what I've seen with depression.
Yes.
How I see that humans live in a depressed state, and depression is a normalized state of being. And what I'm seeing as depression is actually not necessarily understood to be a depressed state of being.
Yes.
Because of the normal operations of life and how we've been functioning, it seems like a normal human experience, but it is really depression. So what do you see with this? Or even where do you want to kick things off at?
I'd like to speak to that and then move on to some other things too. But the idea that humanity is operating at a certain level of frequency, and I often note that people don't usually, there's this space that we operate at where we go below it, we notice that it's dangerously low. And then if we go above it, we think it's a comedian or someone makes us laugh or there's some level of notable joy. But in that middle range, there's layers of behavior that are not enthusiastic, that are not life promoting, that are depressed, where we can feel the press of our experience on us and it's uncomfortable and we can't move and we feel like what's pressing on me, and it's really the experience of living in the world that we currently live in through our interpreted thoughts. So it is our own thoughts that we repeat. We break up with someone and then we think about it for a year or two. I've even talked to people who said, I broke up with someone, and I think it'll take me 2 years to get over it. So they're already planning their suppressed,
There's
depressed experience
annual depression.
for the next few years because it is what we think should happen. Like, I was in love, so I should suffer now that that didn't work out the way I thought it was, and I'm gonna just mark off the next year or two off my calendar so I can experience the less than joyful effects of having been disappointed in that particular experience. So this is something I actually hear from people. So this planning, it's the same way that happens when what we would consider to be tragic events happen. People really don't know how to feel. So someone will say to me, well, I don't think this person really cared for another person because they weren't depressed and upset and crying.
Yeah, I think that's a thing that many people see.
And so we're all trying to, this is what they say that people who have brain disorders do, that they look at people's faces and try to mirror it because they don't feel it. So we're trying to mirror the face of humanity. Like, how do I behave in a breakup? What does that look like? It looks like crying. Okay, I'll do that. And I'll plan for it. Or there's something happened and a person chose not to be focused in physical reality anymore because they have other things to go do. And we're like, well, what does that look like? Okay, let me mirror that level. And then it becomes our real experience. We chemically do become the experience we're trying to mimic, or that we think we should have, or that is being thrust upon us from the mass consciousness.
So there's so many different directions we can go with that, and so I'd like to dive a little bit into that and then branch off. But you were saying that essentially thoughts and perception of a thing keeps us or influences the state of depression, where the case and example that you just gave means it doesn't have to necessarily be that way.
Right.
If we thought differently about maybe the experience of separation and the relationship, that, well, this served me, now I know what not to do.
Yes.
Versus the, it's over, I gotta allow myself to be sad and wallow within it. And so this was a secondary follow-up thought that I had, and you kind of touched on it a little bit with when people are grieving, and how we're conditioned to be. And it's problematic when you're not acting out emotionally. I can see where things happen and we may have a hiccup, or you may experience a lower emotional state. But I see where the problem comes in is this prolonged, or we overextend the stay. The milk is spoiled, the expiration date of grieving is past, but we for some reason want to adhere to it. So I'm trying to find the balance within it, because I see that stuff happens. You may feel the experience of loss, but it's like we don't let go of the loss. We plan to stay in it for 2 years, like you said.
Yes.
So
it's not that grieving isn't a real thing and doesn't deserve its own time and space. It does. But where does it come from? Where does the grieving come from? Where is the thought form that makes you think if your puppy died? All right, Tarvars, here you am. Tarvars, if your puppy died, how long do you stay upset about it?
probably a few moments. I might not even be upset. We'll see. But
yes,
what helps me is understanding that my puppy's still here. I can still connect with my puppy. As you say, the love isn't lost.
So this is something I'd like to kick that door open. Love is never lost. Love is exactly where you put it. You just turned away. You said, oh, you died, so I'm not going to look over there anymore. But the love is still, if you put it in the person who died, your grandmother, it's still there.
I'm over here thinking, I had a real experience with a dog. We had a doggy, was roaming around the neighborhood. I took it in, and I had some experiences. We were working out together. We were running in the snow. You know, sleep together. Go to sleep, girl. She drop down. I had some really joyful experiences, but then when I went to take her to the veterinarian, turns out she was chipped. Of course, right? Small toy poodle. And so there was the departure. There was the ending of the relationship. Not sad, but understanding. It was like, okay, well, if you ever leave the house again, you know where to find me, girl. You know where to find me. But it was like the love isn't lost. I had a grand experience, you know, and I still look at the videos like, oh man, that was so cool, you know. But
So
I'm not longing for something that's no longer here.
So what is the appropriate disposition? Or I'll share with you what the appropriate disposition is.
Sensei.
The appropriate disposition would be gratitude. You had a lover who loved you or made you feel loved or fulfilled something you needed. Sadness is not the appropriate response. Gratitude is. Because you don't have them anymore and that cycle has ended and they have gone on and you have gone on or you both have gone on. The appropriate response is, thank you very much.
Yes.
I once lived in a house that in Florida that I needed to move out of and move into another experience. And I became aware that the house thought I was an adulterer because I was lusting after other houses.
Yeah.
And it was true.
Just flipping through. Ooh.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if you were clicking through.
I was doing all the things. I was doing all the things. You know, I was going out and visiting on in the evening. I was going out
Side houses.
Yes, I was making dates to meet with houses. I was
coming back to your house like nothing happened.
and I knew that I could feel that the house really was feeling positive because of the experience of what was happening with my family in the house. And I was really grateful for the house, but I needed to move on. So I had to sit and have a talk with the house because there was going to be a separation. And I didn't want the house to feel that the void of the love and concern that I bring into any experience, because it is my will to make everything better than I found it, including my house and anything else. And so I had a conversation with the house and assured it that I would continue, and here I am today, continuing to think of it in the highest possible frequency and how it supported my family and was so perfect for us at the time, and how I had wonderful experiences. My family made me a fire pit and this wonderful experiences. And I shared with the house that no matter what happened with the future people, but that I would have these thoughts to help attract another rich experience for the house. So it's not the same thing as losing your puppy or a love affair, but it is.
Yeah, it's a relationship.
It's a relationship
coming to an end.
Yes, and the difference is that when people are confronted with the death of a relationship or the death of a person, they believe the rhetoric, they believe the myth that there is no more, even though every world religion says there's life after death. Every world religion says the hereafter. Every world religion says you can still be in communication. So with the house, it wasn't like the relationship was coming to an end, but it wasn't. I'm still, then this is probably 8 years, I'm still talking about the house today.
Yeah.
With fondness. And so the love I have for that place is right where I left it. I just have to go there and think about it.
Yeah, just look at it. I think this is a very profound but yet practical understanding that can be applied to all relationships.
Yes.
You know, this idea of how something ending is corresponding with death or loss, that you no longer have it, it's no longer available.
Right.
In the face of an interconnected reality, a web of reality, that you're not separate from anything.
You're
on
not,
so many levels.
And how is it that you feel about a cycle that ends? You grow from 9 to 19. Do you want to be 9 again? That cycle has ended. Now you're 19 and there's a new cycle. So you're grateful that you grew up and grateful to move forward.
Yeah.
And so this is where we get stuck a little bit. And in that stuckness is where we feel the press of the negative thinking that makes us think that we have lost something instead of gained something. and where the internal energy of being in gratitude for whatever has happened, even if it has been unpleasant. I'm so grateful that that's not happening right now. I'm so grateful that it will never happen again. I've decided, there's much to be grateful for. And I'm grateful that I am in this moment where I can anticipate my next moment without any unpleasantness.
Yes.
I don't need to get in bed, pull up the covers, and remember only the things that are gone and the things that I can't have and the things I'm not grateful for. Because depression looks like that. And it's a chemical imbalance. We think the thought changes the chemical balance in our brain and then continues to perpetuate itself. And then we want the food that continues to perpetuate that. So we want the sugar, or we want the starch, or we want the thing that gives us the thing that makes us be depressed. Then we gather the parasites, then we have the urges that make us stay in that frequency, but it's really a chemical imbalance that can be triggered through a practice of remembering that it is not virtuous to feel that something is left. It is virtuous to be grateful for what you have. It is impossible to be grateful and depressed at the same time.
If you're a conscious investor looking to make a difference, you need to hear about Aluka Gold. Because doing good and doing well isn't just a dream, it's our promise. Let's face it, everyone wants their money to work harder. But what if your gold investment could do double duty? Aluka Gold is more than just precious metal. We're committed to ethical sourcing and total transparency, so you know exactly where your gold comes from and who it helps. Every ounce you invest helps support real miners and their communities with humanitarian projects and fair wages. That's not just good business, it's good for the world. You get solid, physical gold, plus the pride of knowing your investment brings hope and opportunity to families who need it most. So why settle for ordinary returns when you can spark extraordinary change? Invest with purpose. Invest with Aluka Gold. Do good, do well, and let your gold investment shine brighter than ever.
All right, so I think that was a really good point, because chemical imbalances, the thoughts we think, the emotions we feel, there's chemical response happening. Gratitude can shift that,
Yes.
shifting the thoughts, shifting the
Yes.
focus and awareness.
Yes.
And so I want to kind of pivot a little bit, because I've seen depression show up in ways where when we're not doing the things that we're supposed to be doing. And when I say supposed to be doing, it's like things that we may have given our word to, or even at a deeper level, soul purpose, things that
Yes.
we know we're here to do, but we're putting it off, procrastinating, we're not doing it.
Yes.
Then there's this there's a pressure that comes forth. And I've experienced that in my life, where when I wasn't doing the things that I know I'm designed to do, I suffered.
Yes.
and I would drop. But the moment I start doing them,
Yes.
the pressure releases.
Yeah.
Life is being given in birth, and we're in our happy place.
Right. So with this idea that there is a larger plan that you have established of your own that is in sync with the plan of the rest of us who are here at this time, within the space of this time that we are in, that there are indicators that do arise within you that you may need to be doing something else. And as you move towards those things, the pressure comes off of it.
Yeah.
And then once you move into it, and you navigate your way to find your living and be able to be amongst people who are like-minded, and to move into whatever the thing is, whatever it is. Once you do that, then the idea of depression doesn't exist, because you're not pressed. There's not a depression and a thumb in your back, so to say, like, remember what you're supposed to do. Remember what you're here for.
Yeah. As you say this, I'm processing and seeing this very different, seeing more pieces to it. I'm thinking about when we essentially fear doing the thing that we're supposed to do, because I'm looking at this like, okay, I think it's fear. I think it's in the equation where what's stopping you from doing the thing that would alleviate the press.
Right.
And I can see where the fear comes in, and then so you got this interesting equation where the fear to do the thing that you're designed to do, that you know you're supposed to be doing, and then the press that
Oh
comes
my
along
goodness.
with it, and it's really a handicap. It's like a elephant. I think you said it earlier, elephant sitting on top of you.
It's so interesting because this is so intricate. So you're born into this time where the status quo is being deconstructed. However, everybody who's still in the third dimension has judgment about you and what should be done to help the status quo stay together.
That's in the process of
Right.
deconstructing.
Yes. And so but your plan was to come here and bring forth a new world. But if you tell your family about it, they'll be like, "But do the thing that's safe, do the thing that's always been done. Do the thing that we know you'll be able to be safe and do." But that's not necessarily what you came for because you already were dead before. You already know there is no death.
Yeah.
So, I wrote in my book that, have courage. Um, a coward dies a million times. Courageous man dies only once. Every single thing that happens in your life that you can't address, you can't stop the people from kicking the dog next door. You can't say anything to the neighbor who's hurting her children. You can't stop the man from slapping the woman in the street. You can't stop the police from doing something that doesn't look correct. All of those things, if we all did them, they would stop. The status quo would break.
Yeah.
That may be what you came here for.
Sounds like it.
And then the press of the family and the community and the status quo itself, which is a conscious egregore.
Yeah.
It is an egregore. Stay the same.
Mhm.
Continue as we have. Don't disrupt the force.
Yeah, and it needs your allegiance to continue
Yes.
to do the thing to feed
Yes.
it so that it can sustain itself.
Yes. Be unhappy if you don't have a partner. It's not, like stay unhappy for years on end if you don't have a partner. None of that is the truth. The truth is that you came complete with all of your bells and whistles and all of the parts. If you get someone, that's a wonderful thing. But if you don't, it's okay. It's really all
So,
right.
yeah, you still got you.
Yeah. I'm really very committed to I'm enough. I encourage other people to be enough as well.
Message.
Be enough for your own experience so that you can rise to your own plan of what you planned on doing. I'd like to share a little bit about what can happen with the chemical imbalance. It is very important to eat fermented foods to bring balance to your gut. That will bring balance to your hormones and the messages in your brain. And one of the things that we have found, which is quite ancient and true, is if you find yourself given towards a little depression, eat root vegetables. Have roasted root vegetables and make sure that you're getting enough of them to change your chemical balance. That level of support from Mother Earth can change everything. So if you have a child who's depressed or a husband who's depressed or someone in your household, roast some root vegetables. Have a variety of them. I do mine with a balsamic vinegar reduction. I encourage you all to do something as well. But have the food that will support the chemical in the brain that will allow for the oxytocin and for all of the hormones that produce good feeling to come forward. There are physical things we can do. There are thinking things we can do. There's a variety of things.
I think it's a great example to speak about the food component because it's interesting how depression drives us to eat foods that sustains the depression, and it moves again the microbiome and everything, the chemical, the hormones deeper and deeper into detriment, where it's
depression, addiction, and in general making the body unclean.
yeah.
What invites in parasites and opportunistic aspects of life that are coming in because you're calling them through your chemical imbalance.
Yeah, and so it's these principles and concepts that I see if people had the knowledge or the knowingness, and sometimes, with it, they don't necessarily take action, but I do see, at least in my experience, when I have the greater context of what's
Yes.
happening, it does help. It helps to see that, okay, the depression that I may be feeling is due to, there's some fear involved in that.
Absolutely.
And there's something that I'm not doing that I know I need to do. And if I was to do it, it'll be relieved. If I had those pieces long ago, you know how they say, if I knew then what I know now, there would be less depressed moments, right? And then also, because this is something that you said that I always love to see, which is the greater context that whatever we're doing, something is being fed from that behavior.
Oh, absolutely.
There's that larger egregore, that field that needs you. It's parasitic and needs us to sustain that type of behavior in order for it to exist. And there's a choice that has to be made, and then we could choose to feed something else.
The status quo is hungry.
Yeah.
It just wants more of the same over and over and over again.
Put that thing on a 21-day fast.
That we can see it, Batman 25, Superman 30,
Yeah, but if we stop watching it, they will stop making them because
yeah, so there is that.
Yeah.
That we would have to recognize it is calling us, feed me, eat that ice cream, I want sugar, white bread, all of those things, like feed me, and all of the status quo continues.
Yeah.
So I think that that's probably as far as we can go with this
the amount
conversation
of time
today. Yes.
Camera batteries heating up. These elements, the sun is out and it's beaming on the camera.
So you're going to pull a call for the truth card, and your question today will be?
To see the truth as it relates to depression. What's the truth that we, being here in this room, and the viewers need to hear regarding depression?
And the card is?
Cards be speaking. Self-destruction. This is the solar plexus. Again, it's making me think about the gut that you were talking about earlier. The maxim reads, self-destruction is not aligned with fighting for those who cannot help themselves. And so I can see where depression is very much a self-destructive process, because it is we who allow and permit. It's almost as though we open the gateway for
Yes.
depression to come in, again, through how our perception is, that you were stating earlier, how we're perceiving ourselves, how we're perceiving our circumstances. That filters into what we're eating. And again, it's making me think about the solar plex, because what we eat, what we digest, how we digest and perceive life, the gut, the ego, persona, all of that, it feels like it's in this card.
And in this card is the clarity that we are the ones who are here to help others.
That's right.
So when we fight against that, then our identity center, our solar, our sun self,
Eclipsed.
yes, is eclipsed, and that's depressed.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So we thank
deep.
you all for joining us, and you're having a really good time with
Yeah,
this.
because it's like, it's hitting. If it's hitting, like, subscribe, make a comment. It's hitting.
We thank you for joining us. We give you the greetings of Invocation Veritas with honor, respect, and gratitude to you. Thank you.